Hi, Year 10. So now that you've completed your own annotations of this Jeremy Lin tabloid text, I wanted to take you through my own annotations so that you can see how I analyze texts and I guess the level that we're working towards by the end of this term, and also that we'll continue on with this in term three as well. So if you can make sure that you have your own text nearby, okay, the copy of the Jeremy Lin text that you did last week, because after I show you my annotations in the video, or you can do this as I'm talking, I'd like you to add these notes to your own annotations. Anything that you missed that I've picked up, make sure that you're adding these into your own documents as well, okay? So when I ask you to read a text, as I've mentioned in class before, the first thing that I ask you to do is to read the text for your own understanding. Do nothing else, just read the text, because essentially you need to be the reader to understand the tone, the message, and the purpose and the point of what's happening in the text and why the author has written this in the first place. So, the first thing you need to do is just read it for your understanding, and I will get you to do this in your exam as well. You then read the text a second time, and on the second read, this is where we do our annotations. And you can see that I've done my annotations digitally here rather than by hand. But in the exam, you'll have a highlighter and a pen, and you'll be madly annotating and trying to pick out language features that help you to determine who the audience of the text is, what the purpose of the text is, so why the author has written it, and also we're looking at what the text type is, okay? We'll also start to look at the main message or the meaning that comes through the text, and that's something we'll work on after our midterm break. So stay with me and let's have a look at some of my annotations, all right? These are not exhaustive. You may have found things that I haven't picked up here. I've just picked up things that I think are essential for you to understand those four elements that I just mentioned then, okay? So, when you read a text, the first thing that you want to do is read it from what I call the hair to the toes. That means that you take in everything from this blank space all the way down to the very last thing that you see on the page. So, if we are looking at the first part of the text, everything that's on the page, guys, I'm asking you to analyze everything, okay? And that's what will happen if you do IB as well, and you do a paper one. This is one of the things that the IB does. It purposely includes things and hopes that you pick them up and don't miss them. So, from the very top of the text, we can see that there's tabs, there's links to Facebook, and share icons, for example, that you can share it to different social media pages. You can also see over here there's what we call breadcrumbs, and breadcrumbs are basically, which I explained to you last week, it tells us where we would find this text if we were online. So we can see that someone has clicked on home, and this is found in the trending section of the website. Now, why are these important that I've picked out for you? And especially if you look up here, there are lots of different tabs: entertainment, trending, humor, videos. Each of these features that I've just mentioned signifies that the text is aimed at online audiences, and particularly those people who might be interested in any topic that's trending as well. So it's found in the trending section. Those people who are interested in new hot topics might click on this. It's also entertaining, okay, and it's in Distractify, which we can see is probably not necessarily like your hard news website. It's probably something that's a little bit more casual in tone. Now, it also might interest readers, and you can see if there's a Facebook icon and a button that says share, or there's anything that indicates a social media link, you know it's going to be aimed at an online audience. Because if I print this out and get you to read it, there's no way you can actually click on that Facebook share button. So therefore, we know that those icons signify that it's meant for an online audience, okay? The tabloid, though, what I've said, it also might interest people. So our primary audience is online readers, because this is found online. If I'm not online, I don't have access to it. Number one, primary audience. Secondly, the tabloid might also refer to people or target people who are interested in things like the NBA, maybe who are fans of Jeremy Lin, or if you don't like Jeremy Lin, you might also read this because you're like, look what he did. So anyone who's familiar with those two contexts, NBA or online, or anything that's happening in this text, maybe people who are interested in topics like cultural appropriation might also be interested in reading this as well. But those are my two audiences, and this is, I guess, my evidence here that I know it's an online audience, and perhaps secondary audiences might be interested in Jeremy Lin or the NBA. All right. So that's the first thing I've picked up. The second thing I've picked up on the headline, which says Asian NBA star snaps back in the best way after criticism over his dreadlocks. Now, snaps back in the best way, we can see here that the opinion of the author is very clearly expressed. So we can see that the purpose of the text is kind of going to elaborate on what happened in this event. They're going to tell us what actually happened, but also they're going to persuade us to try and praise what Jeremy Lin has done or how he's reacted to the criticism, because it clearly says snaps back in the best way. So they're applauding him straight away. Okay, guys, let's go to the next thing. So what I've said about snaps back, that's a use of a colloquialism. Remember, colloquial language is casual, informal language. So this might indicate as well, if we look at the audience, that maybe it's aimed at people who are a bit younger or who understand that kind of lingo, okay, in terms of your audience. So firstly, there's a pun, okay? It says, if you're not familiar with NBA star, so there's our inclusive language. It's talking to you. If you're not familiar with. The next thing is Linsanity. So this is pun. Why is it pun? Pun is a play on words, all right? So it's referring to an NBA incident that obviously involved Jeremy Lin because it caused a bit of chaos as well. But it also has that play on words because his surname is Lin. Insanity is another word. They've meshed it together and called it Linsanity. So it kind of adds a bit of light-hearted sense of humor to, I guess, the opening line of this article, okay? And it also works to praise what Jeremy Lin has done. So you've got some inclusive language, we've got pun here. If we go to the second paragraph, I've picked up an idiom. Tearing it up, all right, means that like they're doing an amazing job. There haven't been many ethnically Asian players tearing it up on the court, as in killing it on the court, okay? He also got props from people. That's colloquial language again. If I say, hey, props to you, that means you're doing a good job, all right? So again, informal language might also tell us who the audience is. It also says here for shutting down Kim Kardashian. So it's underlined and it's in blue, and that tells us straight away, again, online audience, because it's a hyperlink. If I print this article out and give it to you, you can't click on it if it's printed. You must be online to access all of these. So that's another clue, a formal layout feature that tells us that it's aimed at an online audience, okay? And that's how you know it's the text type is for online users. Okay, Miss Renee also said that this is alliteration when we did this last year. So props from people. Props to people can also be alliteration, okay? Flagrant fouls is obvious alliteration. And try saying that, flagrant fouls. You have to say it really slowly. So alliteration is really used to emphasize the unfair treatment that Lin has had on the court from referees, okay? Clearly flagrant fouls, that's very biased language there as well. They're clearly saying it's a mistake. Now, here's where we get some of the author's opinion. Again, Lin's response to the video was nothing but pure class. That's some emotive language here because it's showcasing to us what the author's ideology and bias might be towards Lin, that they really think that Lin is a good person who's done the right thing, okay? So when we talk about ideologies, you're looking for any instance where the author's opinion or their own idea or perception comes in, and we get clues very clearly here in a tabloid because tabloids are quite biased, all right? So let's take it down a notch. On the second page, you can see here we have another hyperlink, and these are happening throughout the whole entire text. So anytime you see links to videos, to tweets, they're scattered throughout this text. And that really shortens the readability of it. We're not reading like a big long essay. The article itself or the tabloid itself is very, very short in text. So again, justifying it's an online audience, but also it might be for people who are scrolling on their phones, who want to tap on things and read and go to that link and see the video that happened, or jump on Twitter and look at the tweet from another player, for example. And it is aiming at people who really like keeping up with those trending topics as well, because they're including this on purpose, all right? So it's an easy read. It's not meant to be longer than maybe a 5-minute read for people who don't like reading long articles. It says here, Asian American athlete, okay, and wanting to be black wants the Asian American athlete. That's a metonymy. Remember, metonymy is about calling someone something that isn't their name, for example, but that also explains or references who they are. So the Asian American athlete, I mean, that's also alliteration, but I would say it's metonymy, okay, because it's referring to Lin. Um, Debuted his new dreads hairstyle on the court. Now, in terms of if we're looking at the structure of this whole entire text, okay, the author is spending, we're already on the second page, a whole bunch of time giving us this background context to who Jeremy Lin is, okay, to what's happened to him in the past, how many times he's been criticized. Before we actually get to the point of the article, they're only mentioning the dreadlocks now, guys. Before this, it's been setting us up to be on Lin's side, basically, telling us about all the flagrant fouls and the bad things that have happened to him in the past on the court. So if you notice, the author sets us up and only now starts to talk about the dreadlocks, which was what the whole point of the article is in the first place. All right. So pay attention to that structure because there's a point to why they do that. Okay. Only revealing that now. All right, so let's get down to the whole point of this article. Here's some more bias for you. We spoke about bias, or I spoke about bias in my previous video. So Lin responded to Martin's statement with nothing but respect. Okay, again, that's a use of opinionated language. And it shows the author's purpose, which is, as I mentioned last lesson, to defend and praise Jeremy Lin, to defend him, to say that he's awesome, and also to challenge and to oppose anyone who has criticized anything that he's done. Okay, so here what I've said is that the author is inviting us as the audience or the readers to accept their ideology, to accept their opinion and their beliefs. Like they're repeating again, nothing but respect. Remember before it was nothing but pure class. So it's that same repetition of language to make us feel empathy and also supportive of Jeremy Lin. All right. Um, He's seemingly guilty of delivering a solid burn. This is again more colloquialism, guys, in formal language. It's kind of like, oh, you got burned, all right? Maybe your 70 or 80-year-old grandparent might not understand what it means to have a solid burn. They might think that you actually got injured. Maybe they're down with it. Maybe they know this kind of language. But again, you can see that this is kind of aimed at people who understand this informal language, okay? Who are kind of down with Wi-Fi, social media, all the kind of things that come with being technologically savvy, all right? Lin's response. So we now get to actually see 3 pages in this article what Jeremy Lin had to say, which is the point of the text. So by actually including the tweet, okay, which we can see here, they've included exactly what Jeremy Lin said. He snapped back in the best way. That's evidence, more evidence that the author has to try and say, Jeremy Lin's really humble. And here, if we're looking at the overall message of the text, it's trying to paint Lin as a hero, Jeremy Lin as a hero, and someone who we can perhaps also learn from as well. How do I know that? Well, I've mentioned here there's more social media, colloquial language. You can see it here from everyone's tweets, so we'll skip over that. But it says, Jeremy Lin out here roasting Kmart with so much respect, I don't know how to feel. More colloquialisms, more abbreviations. But then it also includes the tweet from what was said about Lin from the NBA player who criticized him, all right? And says, do I need to remind this boy his last name is Lin? Martin said with a sarcastic face and tone. Like, come on, man, let's stop it with these people. There is no way possible that he would have made it. So yeah, it goes on about the criticism that Jeremy Lin copped here. And so by putting that in the article on purpose, what's the purpose of it? Well, it's trying to paint the other person as the villain and make us more supportive to believe that Jeremy Lin is actually a hero. All right. So you can see where I'm going with this. There's more images, there's tweets. This is more to add that entertainment value now to the rest of the article, the rest of the text, okay? And so you can see that I've included this all the way down to the end here, okay? Because that's really what happens in the rest of the text. So what I would like you to do is, if you haven't already, adding in anything that you missed, especially with the language in the first half of it, okay? And the next activity for you is to summarize now in a paragraph the purpose of the text, the audience of the text, who it's aimed at, okay? And also telling me a couple of language features that are used, okay? So if you haven't already, can I get you to make sure that you've added in all of those notes to your own Jeremy Lin article, tabloid, okay? And we will come back to this in week 10 when we continue on with our textual analysis. Thanks, guys.